So welcome everyone. I'm Bryan Adler, elder law attorney with Rothkoff Law Group. And with me is my co-host here, Kathleen Magee.
I'm the Director of Care Coordination with Rothkoff Law Group.
And clients Ann LaFave, which is a family we've been working with for a while. Ann, would you like to say hi?
Hi, my name is Ann LaFave.
So I wanted to welcome everyone to our first client interview. Ann LaFave, we've been working with her for about a little over 2 years now. And she first came to us for some assistance when her husband, Bill, needed long-term care. And recently, Bill passed away after a lengthy battle with dementia and related issues. And we've worked really closely with Ann. She's not only been one of the families we work with, but she's a supporter of the firm. She comes to our symposium, and we have in-person meetings that often are 10 minutes of substance and 50 minutes of shooting the breeze. So we thought we'd take a moment with you today and to shoot the breeze a little bit. So what I would hope to do to kick it off is, can you just tell me, if you even remember 2 years ago, what prompted you to contact us, but what made you think I need to contact an elder care law firm?
I didn't know anything about long-term care. And so I needed somebody to help me through it. My husband and I had just drawn up our will, and we used an elder lawyer from Doylestown. And my son had recommended her. So I called my son and I asked him, do you think that she does that? And he said, well, I don't know if she does that to the extent that you might need the help. So maybe you need to look around a little bit. He said, I'll also look around. So my second choice for the long-term care facility told me about a firm, and that's all they do, is elder care and helping people work through all of that. And so I asked her if she had any information, and my son is an attorney, and she gave me information. I passed it on to him. He called your firm. He called me back. He said, Mom, go with these people. They're the best I've interviewed. And
That's what we like to hear.
yeah, so he said, I think we'll be good there. So give them a call and see if they'll take us.
We welcomed you with open arms. I remember our initial meeting. Is it okay if I share a little bit about my memories of that?
Go ahead.
I remember you were actively engaged, meaning you knew your finances. I mean, it's almost to the penny. We were going over finances and you were quoting everything. You had such a strong handle on everything. You're probably one of the greatest advocates I've seen for a loved one in a very long time. And I remember that. And usually when a family comes in, maybe mom comes with son, like you did with Billy, I usually just by nature sort of direct the conversation towards Billy. But within 30 seconds, I was like, nope, he does not need to be involved. This is all Ann. So after you decided to work with us, you met Kathleen, right?
Yes.
What was that experience like, working with Kathleen?
What was the experience working with Kathleen? Mm-hmm. Well, it was wonderful because every time I needed something, if I called her and she wasn't available, I would call the office and they would contact her and she would get right back to me. So anytime I ever had a question, it was always answered. I also emailed her. And I remember recently, and I don't remember the circumstance, but it was Saturday night. And I said, well, if it wasn't Saturday, it was Friday night. And I said to my daughter, well, I probably won't hear back until Monday, but at least I have it off my chest. And Kathleen emailed me less than 5 minutes later with the answer. So, I mean, how can you go wrong? She probably just happened to be there and she gave me the answer and everything was all set.
And I remember that, Ann, because it was something about a meeting on Monday morning. So I thought if I wait, right, she's not going to know. And I didn't want you to rush out on Monday. I forget what the circumstances were, but you needed the answer sooner than Monday.
Right. And then Kathleen came to every one of my healthcare meetings for Bill. And I remember when I needed to pick a hospice. And I'm Catholic and I practice my faith, and I go to a prayer meeting, and there's a chaplain for a Catholic hospice that goes to that prayer meeting as well. And she said she would be more than happy to, take us on. And so I was pretty much set, and I asked Kathleen, and Kathleen advised me that the hospice that the Briarleaf associates with, if they have a good relationship, you might be better off taking them because the relationship is established. Mm-hmm. So I went back, and Kathleen said, but the choice is yours. So, and there was also Doylestown Hospice. And so anyway, I went back to the Catholic chaplain, and I said to her, there's one that's really connected to Briarleaf, and it's not your hospice. She said to me exactly what Kathleen said. If you have a connection with a hospice, whether it's Protestant or Catholic, don't worry. Anybody in hospice is a good person, and you're going to do just fine. And if I were you, I didn't tell her, Kathleen advised me. She said, if I were you, I'd stick with them. So I did. I went with what Kathleen told me, and they were wonderful.
And I have to tell you, had I not met you, I still would not know how to pronounce the Shrine of Czestochowa. I drive past it all the time. I had no idea until I met you, and now that is off my bucket list. I know how to pronounce that word.
Well, I have one up on you. I can spell it.
I know it starts with a C and ends with A. That's about it. So yeah. Now that last little discussion was a great commercial for how awesome we are. But what I really share with us your experience from when Bill entered long-term care to his recent death, and just what you experienced, and just talk a little bit about it, and the difficulties you encountered, the happiness behind some of it, the positives, because there were happy times. There were positive things in all of this. So just share a little bit with us and just say whatever you'd like.
Well, when I arrived at Briarleaf, they had told me he would be coming probably between 1 and 2 o'clock. So if I would wait until 4, that would be a good time. And his afternoon nurse, Teresa, turned out to be really unique. She was very special. And we were in the room, and Bill's eyes were closed, and I couldn't tell if he was awake or asleep, but he wouldn't open his eyes. So anyway, I was thinking maybe I should go, and my phone rang, and it was my nephew, Michael, who is a drug addict, and he's also a serious alcoholic. And he doesn't drink anymore, but he still does drugs. And so my husband was really connected to Michael. And there was a point in time when he tried to commit suicide, and he had no place to go. And we knew a counselor who's connected with the police department. So I called him up and I asked, could we take him in? And he said, well, as long as he comes to me, because he was connected to the police department. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we took Michael in for 7 months, and then this counselor said, it's time, and I will teach you how to have him leave, because to keep him now would be to enable, and then he'll go right back to where he was.
Sure.
So in the end, Michael left, but we kept our connection with him. And for some reason, Michael was at his son's baseball game, and he said to me, and I don't know what prompted me, but it was very strong. And he called and he said, hi, Ann, this is Mike. How you doing? How's Uncle Bill? So I said, Michael, I'm going to put you on speakerphone. Ask him. So Michael said, hi, Uncle Bill. How you doing? It's Mike. And Bill opened his eyes and said, hi, Mike. And Teresa left the room and came back with 2 people from my parish who brought Bill Holy Communion. And that was my introduction to Briarleaf.
And I never heard that before. You never shared that with me.
Yeah. And Teresa and I realized then that Bill was involved, but there were certain things that would trigger him to come back. And Teresa said, you have to see if you can figure out those triggers, because your nephew brought your husband back to us. Otherwise, he would have zizzed out. And so I learned a little something about dementia that day. And then Terry and Marie McWigan gave Bill Holy Communion, and I really felt, you know, my faith has to pull me through this. And I felt that, you know, God was saying, this is where we're at now, and we're going to work through this. And I felt that day that I was okay. Briarleaf was my second choice. I wanted Neshaminy Manor.
I remember this vividly.
Yeah, our internist works at Neshaminy Manor, but there was no room. And a month later, they had room. And I went to Neshaminy Manor and I spoke with the internist. And he said, I've worked at Briarleaf. And he said, I don't work there anymore. But when I worked there, I never had a problem. So if he's getting good care there, and I know they do get good care there, and that's not to say we don't give it here, he said, there is no reason for you to move him.
And you had some nurses and some caregivers at Briarleaf that, I mean, they cared for Bill for years, correct?
Yes, Teresa ended up leaving. She was getting allergy difficulties, and it seemed to be connected to the workspace because she would get sick on Monday, and by Friday she'd have to go to the doctor, and by the end of the weekend she was fine again, and it would happen week after week. So she ended up leaving, but his morning nurse was with him from the very beginning, and she was very special too, Kathy Batchelor.
And you talk about how great of an advocate you are, Anne. You cared for your husband up until the day he admitted to the skilled nursing community. And I know that's been a conversation we had multiple times, is that you kind of recognize the point that you can't do this anymore. And I think building that great rapport with the staff that you had helped you through this, because you could kind of take that step back, visit with Bill, and trust that you know, they were caring for him and he was in good hands.
I used to go twice a day.
Yeah.
And so I was there enough times that I observed what they were like with the other patients and how they were with my husband. So there was never a time that I saw anything that didn't look right. And so when I left, I always felt no place is perfect, but they would never do anything that would make me uncomfortable. I felt that it, because I saw it. I saw, there was one woman who kept getting out of her seat, and everybody was, even some of the patients were trying to help her, you know, who could talk and everything. But one day this woman would not stay in her seat, and a nurse's aide came over and said, would you like to take a walk with me? I'll go with you. And she did it. She walked with that lady, and it was her free time. That's why she could do it. And I saw that, and I said, that's what Briarleaf is like. They're like a family, really. It's small, it's not cosmetic, but the connection between the people is what makes the nursing home doable. And
hey, let me ask you.
Yeah.
What was I'm going to ask you two questions,
uh-huh.
And they're the opposite ends of the spectrum. What was the most difficult or the worst thing you had to deal with over these last 2.5 years? Really, it's been even longer, but really since Bill entered a long-term care community, what was the most difficult challenge you faced?
Well, I would go there and I used to say to myself, well, at least you have something that you can do for him. Because he had fungus on his toenails, so I used to do that, and I used to brush his teeth. But before I came to that discussion with myself, what was hard was just even going there. And so I have to say that what happened to my husband, I wished I could keep him home, but the symposium that you invited me to, the main speaker's mother had vascular dementia. And that's my husband's diagnosis. So everything he said applied to my husband. And one of the things that he told us was that there's a personality switch. Like the person, as the dementia progresses, it's a different person. My husband was so kind and gentle, but as the disease progressed, he became aggressive and angry. And that's what this man said happened to his mother. And he described his mother. She sounded just like my husband before. And so that's why, you know, that my daughter Margaret is a physical therapist who works with this population. And I kept saying to her, I did the right thing, right, Margaret? Because I was really able to keep him home. I had to dress him, do his teeth, shave him. Yeah. I had him on a bathroom schedule. You know, I had to help him in and out of the car. But at the very end, when we'd go to BJ's, after being there maybe 10 or 15 minutes, he started to get agitated. And I knew that I had to leave the store right away because Margaret told me, with this, if he gets agitated, he may not be able to be redirected. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, right before he went into Briarleaf, we went to her house in Massachusetts, and he became disoriented and we could not get him to go to bed. And less than 2 weeks later, we had an incident in the house, and that's when I knew I couldn't do it anymore, because he growled at me and physically pushed me. And I realized if I kept him home, it was really selfish on my part, because I could not provide for him what he needed anymore. So going to Briarleaf, I had to remind myself of those things, because the worst thing for me was putting him there.
And you said something that's so valuable, because the families we work with, we see this all the time. I know Kathleen does, I know I do. A husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, they struggle and think, well, this is my job. My parent cared for me, I should be able to care for them. Or I said, for better or for worse, in sickness and or health, it is my job. But you came to the difficult realization that you're not a care provider. You can be his support system and be there for him, but you needed professional help. And that was a difficult journey.
Well, the doctor said to me, how's everything going? And I said, I'm done. And he sat down and he said to me, tell me. So I told him what happened. And I said he was looking for the stairs. We live in a ranch, but we had been at my daughter's house. And once you go down the stairs, right in front of you is the front door. So ultimately, I was concerned he was looking to leave the house. And had he done that, it would have been a whole different situation. So in the end, I was able to get him back into bed. But I knew it was just a matter of time before another situation happened. It was not possible to redirect him. The disease had taken control. It had come to.
Now,
yeah.
On the other side of that, you have a deep faith. You have always been an optimistic, positive person, a realist. You've been a realistic optimist too. So what came out of this that was positive or uplifting or life-changing?
What came out of being in Briarleaf?
All of this. What came out of having a spouse who suffers from vascular dementia? And you had it was a difficult few years, but I've talked to you frequently over that time, and you've always had a smile on your face. You were always very optimistic. So looking back, what was something truly positive that you took away from this? Or what was something that was kind of life-changing in a good way?
Well, I could talk about the staff and the residents. There were residents there who looked after each other. And I used to notice that they would put somebody else before them and look out for the welfare of somebody else that was there. And there was one in particular, his name was Ray, and his bedroom was right near where Bill's wheelchair was. And every single day he would come and ask, how is Bill doing? You know, my name is Ray and I'd like to say hello. And there was a lady by the name of Frida, and she was the same way. She would come and talk to Bill, and she would tell me how he was doing, and he's doing well. And so I noticed that about some of the patients. And then there were caretakers. One nurse in particular, Mary, when I would feed Bill in the afternoon, she would always come to me and ask me if I wanted ice cream for him. And she didn't have to do that. And then there was another woman, she was a nurse's aide, and at this point, Bill was sometimes having difficulty swallowing.
Mm-hmm.
This nurse's aide was standoffish, you know, but I knew that, so I would just say hello to her. I didn't bother her. But she came up to me this one day and she said, you know, he's supposed to have the thickener in his drink, and you're not putting it in. And I see that you're not putting it in. Now here's the thickener. So I want you to use it. He needs it. So I looked at her and I said, okay. And then when I left that day, I said to myself, well, you're in good with those ladies, because she would never talk to you if she didn't trust you. Like, she would never talk to you like that if she didn't trust you. So the next day I said hello to her again, and she was as nice as she could be.
So in other words,
she trusted me.
You really, maybe the answer to that question is humanity. You know, the village really grew up around you and Bill. You know, you had support from total strangers.
Yes. Yeah. And also, I didn't realize it, but when I fed Bill, they didn't have to feed him. So they would come to me and they would say to me, we'll be happy to feed your husband today if you like. And I said, no, I'm staying. That's okay. If I need you, I'll. And they said, okay. And I mean, that just meant that was one less person that they had to take care of. And I was there most of the time. So I never complained. Teresa had said to me, if you're ever having trouble, don't take it on yourself to figure it out for yourself. Always ask, because if you make a mistake and he aspirates, that's it. We'll never let you feed him again.
Okay.
So when I needed help, that was when I asked. Mm-hmm. And they always helped me because they knew she wouldn't bother us unless she needed help. And sometimes they only just needed to tell me a word or two, didn't have to demonstrate. But the lady with the fluid thickener, that was, she had to demonstrate that one because I didn't know about that.
And I think you bring up a good point, Anne, is that recognizing when home became difficult for you and making the decision to transition Bill to long-term care, it didn't make you any less of a caregiver to him. You supported the staff and they supported you, and you both cared for Bill. But you were also able to spend quality time with him when you went. You would go and pray the rosary, or you would go and face, whatever the case may be. You were able to spend your time with him.
Yes. And I was able to go out on the patio with him in the nice weather. And
that building is in a beautiful location. Mm-hmm. I remember we came to see Bill in the fall, and the trees and the tree-lined streets, it's beautiful out there.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and when I would go out on the patio with him, the staff wasn't there, and the residents were much more relaxed, and they would speak to me and to Bill and how you doing, and other times, most of the time it was the guys smoking their cigarettes, but if I would have to leave with Bill, they would always get up and hold the door and help us out. And so, those were nice experiences that made being there doable.
Now, let me ask you one final question, Anne. And this isn't necessarily about Briarleaf or the hospice provider or anything like that. It's just that you had an experience that covered really a very large swath of the long-term care continuum. Bill was hospitalized. Bill was in nursing homes. Bill had hospice. looking back on this experience over these last several years, what do you see needs to change? And the answer can be nothing. The answer can be, I think it's as good as it gets. But we're, with particularly, and I don't want to focus on COVID or anything, but, we've seen this as a buzzsaw, sawing down seniors in long-term care communities. And I'm not asking for you to wax on, sterilization techniques, but is there something that you saw where you thought, we as a society could do better for our aging loved ones and our aging population?
Well, I saw what long-term care is, and it's not any fun, that's for sure. If you're in a wheelchair, you're in front of the television all day. I finally came to the conclusion, but they have to do that because the people who are there need to be observed. And the nurses give out medicine all day. And the nurses' aides can't be in all the different rooms. Mm-hmm. So it's not easy to, and if you are sort of sound mind and in front of a wheelchair, in front of a TV all day, I can't imagine that kind of an existence. I don't know what you could do to change it, but that was one thing that I felt was unresolvable, was that was the only thing they could do for the people, was to sit them in a circle in front of a television.
That's why I'm asking you the question. I want that voice to be heard. One voice can do a lot.
One of the nurses used to, on the weekend, used to bring in her CDs. Mm-hmm. She has made CDs. And somebody was looking to get on the internet and to buy something off Amazon, and that there was interference. Mm-hmm. So whoever would assist came in and found out that this woman was pumping music. Some of the residents were singing to it.
That's cool.
Really enjoying it. And this person reported her to whoever the authorities are, and you're not allowed to do that. It's against the law. So not only did they take the equipment, they also took all of the musical CDs out of the nursing home.
It's a shame.
And so on the weekend, the people in the halls could move and sing to the music. But after that happened, it was shut down. So they couldn't do it anymore. And I noticed it. I said, what happened to the Beatles? What happened to Frank Sinatra? And they told me, since you asked, we'll tell you.
So maybe that's one thing that could change, play more music.
Well, you're not allowed to play music in the halls because it's advertising. I don't, but anyway, that was something that I thought was, hard.
Well, and thank you very much for taking this time to talk with me and Kathleen. Kathleen, do you have anything else to add?
Thank you so much, Anna. It's been so great to work with you over these past 2 years.
So thank you all for joining a web series that we have yet to title, but maybe Conversations with Clients. Maybe that's a possibility because everyone seems to like alliterations. Anne, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Anne.
You know how much we adore working with you, and I look forward to seeing you later this week.
Okay, it's been great. Thank you, Bryan. Thank you, Kathleen.